Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Justin.
And I'm your guest, Zach, aka Conan Librarian.
And I'm your co-host, Austin.
And I'm your co-host, Ian.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Zach, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're super excited to have you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I messed up my line. So thank you for joining us here at Crit Academy Studios, where everything's made up and your roles don't matter.
Oh, I'm doing that? Okay.
Go ahead.
Yep, that's right. Your roles are like a D&D game without a good way to manage your campaigns.
Yes.
It's a little bit important.
When you can't keep track of your stuff, you definitely... Now, I know that note's here somewhere, or I know this. I thought the stream was ready to go when I was, anyways.
Oh, that's what happened in those 6 sessions ago? I'm glad
Let me
my player
see
kept
here. My
track.
notes from last week is health potion, magic sword,
Squiggly
Goofy the
lines.
Goblin.
Squiggly lines that I can't read.
Yeah.
Before we get right into everything today, I am super excited. If you have not checked out our Kickstarter that launched earlier or late last month, it is still going on for Capes and Crooks. That utilize Capes and the Crooks is a superhero 5e game for the. Oh God, I am so discombobulated. Capes and Crooks utilizes the core rules of the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons role-playing game system. With its own unique twist, you will take on the role of a superhero or villain, because let's be honest, most player characters are villains, even though they don't think they are. And you'll be able to completely customize your character with a unique origin, roles, powers, and alter egos. We have 4 days left, I think, right now on our Kickstarter.
I think so.
Certainly not going as strong as we would have liked for our second one, but that's okay.
But we are praying for a miracle.
One of the things that separates Capes and Crooks from 5th edition is the fact there is no subclass system. Instead, we gave you enhancements and powers that evolve with the character and change as they level up. And you get this kind of a la carte, build your own superhero motif thing. And it's super fun. I've got nothing but great feedback. So if that's something that you're interested, please consider heading on over to rebrand.ly/backcapesandcrooks and check it out. I think that's everything. With that, we like to start off every episode off on a high note, and we do that by giving away fat loots. Sorry, I'm taking the lead here, you guys.
No, you're fine.
Because I
Go right
realized
ahead.
I didn't fill that in for you. Today's fat loot giveaway is Fantastic Terrain. This is actually one of our own products.
It is.
If you have not seen Fantastic Terrain, it is a collection of 50 different environmental effects that either help or hinder your heroes, from a necromantic ritual spot that enhances necromancy spells to, grass that grabs a hold of you if you get knocked prone into it and you can't stand back up. So from blessings to curses, it has it all. Who is our winner today, Austin?
Our winner today is Bruno. Congratulations,
Yay,
Bruno.
A pronounceable username.
Right, finally. Not like Mixopidalic or whatever.
Right. But don't worry if you didn't win, because you can just head over to critacademy.com and you can subscribe for your chance to win. And now it includes, apparently, our own products. And so if you're kind of waiting and biding your time, just on the fence about it, well, now maybe you have a chance of getting it.
I forgot to say, our Fantastic Terrain just hit platinum bestseller. Woo woo!
Oh, wow.
So thanks
Wow.
to everyone that supported that. You guys are awesome. I'm pretty sure that's our #1 seller on DM's
I think so.
With all that, on to our main topic. Zach, so much awesome. I actually watched some of your content. I really, really loved it. You're here for Obsidian Portal, but I would like you to tell a little bit, the audience a little bit about yourself before we really get into it, so they know who we're hanging out with and just how awesome you are.
Well, I appreciate that. So I am Zach, Conan Librarian on Obsidian Portal. I've been playing Tabletop for almost 20 years, I'd say. And I'll really play anything. D&D is always what I come back to, whether it's a classic dungeon crawl or reskinning for a sci-fi adventure. I'll play anything that has dice and paper. I'm a fiend. I'm usually a DM, and being a forever DM has afforded me a lot of really good opportunities to play with and run stories for a lot of great people. I've been using Obsidian Portal now for 5, 6, 7 years, and I originally started using it as just kind of a tally pad and a notepad And I went away for a couple years and came back when I was looking for a campaign manager and realized everything I could do with it. So diving further and further, I got addicted to the customization. I started teaching myself some programming so I could customize a little bit more. And ended up winning Campaign of the Month in 19, and then Campaign of the Year with the same campaign.
Wow.
So
Damn.
I'm very proud, and it's no small feat. There are some amazing creators on that site, and any of them will say the same thing that I do is I did not do anything by myself. There's a great community of people. It's if you're ever looking for help, not just running a game, but even learning basic coding, CSS, they're there. They answer questions. So for me personally, as far as gaming itself, like I said, I'll do anything. I run most everything online just because my group is spread throughout meat space and not always able to be right here at home.
Meat space?
Yeah.
That's a new one.
Really?
I've never heard that before.
I like it.
Very cool, very cool. Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
Kind of to segue into our tabletop fun times, what is your most memorable D&D moment?
My
Or
most
Or in the RPG in general.
Yeah,
Or
doesn't
any
have to be
RPG.
D&D.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, and it's a long story, but I'll condense it. I was running a game, and one of my players was playing a Shidarkai, really clan-heavy backstory.
Right.
She was playing this guy who was adventuring in the material plane for the first time, but otherwise it was doing it for the Raven Queen and his clan.
Mhm.
Well, they were dealing with this hag. I created this kind of drifter, this person who could drift in and out of time and memories, and they were trying to get information about these catastrophic events in the Feywild. Well, when her character asked, who's in charge and who can get us this information, well, this hag said it would cost them something more than flesh, something more precious. And so, the rest of my party's just throwing out ideas. I've got gold, I've got extra loot, blah, blah, blah. And my player's sitting there for a minute, and she says, in character, you could take my clan, but you can't take my queen. And it blew me away.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Whoa.
I'm very lucky as a DM. My players, and especially her, really used the portal. So she had written her whole backstory, and it was so detailed about her clan. And so for about 5 minutes, I stepped away. And when I came back, I'd spent 5 minutes going through all the journals and her backstory she had written, slowly removing her clan and replacing it with solitude and just
That is
loneliness.
awesome.
Damn.
And when we get to the end of it, and I talk about that last moment where her character Razvan walked through the portal into the material plane, and how she wakes up, or her character, the Shidarkai, wakes up and is sitting in front of this hag, and just suddenly my player says, well, he feels really weird. Why would he give up his clan? His clan is his party. They're just outside. Clan is a weird thing. I lost my clan when I was a child. Just rocked me. Completely committed to it, and took all of it to step the story forward like that. And it blew me away. Giving up that, making such a huge character commitment,
Right.
and then completely owning it just blew me away.
That is...
That,
That's amazing.
That's impressive.
that is a very, if people want to talk about, how, players don't have to do anything, they just have to show up and roll some dice, right? But, it's players like that really
Yeah.
define what player agency is.
For sure.
They completely changed the whole story.
Mhm.
Well,
Whatever
I'm
they...
very lucky that player is actually my wife. She's in all my campaigns.
Wow.
I was really terrified of just fucking up her character and her backstory.
Right.
I was scared of doing that, but
And
the way
then-
she handled it just, it blew me away. My favorite moment by far.
Yeah, that's impressive. Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So that if I understand this right, you mentioned the portal. So she leveraged what was the information that was in the portal.
So her backstory was she had left the Shadowfell to adventure into the material plane to find glory for the tribe and to find favor with the Raven Queen. Well, her backstory. She had written all these journal entries and backstories about her adventures through the Shadow Realm or through Shadowfell and coming to the material plane.
God.
So when she asked this hag, this drifter, who knows and who runs the Feywild, which as a DM, I knew this answer, but I had like a name and a general concept. This was like 3 arcs from where they were at. And she asked like, hey, who's this guy? I'm like, whatever, you're going to have to really give it up. And she says, well, I'm going to give up my entire character backstory. Like, whoa, well, you get your answer.
Yeah,
cool.
like
amazing.
That's not like a check or anything. Like, that's just something that like they're giving something that is not replaceable.
Yeah.
Not, at least,
and the way she
like,
ran after that, like, that was now her character. She had been alone. She had strived by herself to gain favor with the Raven Queen, and she had, this and that. Like, she completely adapted, and it went from being, this really clan-specific backstory to being this really lone survivor strength background.
That's
all right.
That's awesome.
That's insane. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I have that one. That was from Cold Truce, actually, the campaign I won Game of the Year for. So I have all that written up. That's a great thing, to plug it. Obsidian Portal. I have her original backstory, and then the entry about that session, and the entry where we went through and the actual changing of everything and the reaction of it. So yeah.
Our next question we often ask our guests is, what is one moment you feel that you've either failed as either a player or a game master? And what did you learn from it?
I was running, it was the same campaign actually, Cultures. I have a lot from it just because we played it for so long I've got some really great players. I was really excited about this kind of pseudo arcade game thing I built, right? Mini games, this adventure thing they were going to do where they plug into this arcane virtual space to do these, just to kill some time.
Right.
I was really excited for it, and I had an idea where it was going to be a little deadlier than they thought it was going to be, because it was essentially going to be hacked by the bad guy, that sort of thing.
Right.
Excuse me. Have a D&D cyberpunk thing. Well, I ended up railroading super hard because I gave him the option, hey, if you commit to possibly actually losing something, whether it's dying and having to deal with that, or I gave some serious consequences, your reward could be doubled, or you could just play easy and then drop, no big deal. And I mean, I was really excited, and I wanted that sense of danger, but instead of giving the option to let them opt into it and do something dangerous, I locked them into it, and I railroaded them into, well, now it's been hacked, and now you have to do it, and now it is dangerous, when they were otherwise going into a more fun encounter. It was a beach day, well, a bar day. It was a day off, and they were just screwing around, and I had spent a lot of time making this content for these, like, mini adventures.
Right.
And it really put a sour note into it, and, something, at this point, I've been and running for them specifically for a couple years. As much as you may think you want to not take it easy on players, it's like any DM, whether you're brand new or you've been playing for years, don't get caught up in your own story. Just because you're excited doesn't mean they're going to be excited. And if they just want to have a beach day, give them a beach day, man.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, and
sometimes you need those days off.
That is a tough lesson to learn as well, because like there's a lot that is hard to like, because like you invest so much into the story that you're trying to make, and you suddenly just have to you still have to play with these other people, right? Like it's you can't just be, this isn't a solo player game. Like this is a game with friends.
Now I'm flashing back to a Pathfinder campaign where the DM kept on trying to give us quest hooks, and they all just crashed and burned in some way, shape, or form.
That happens sometimes.
Well, like, I remember like one particular time where the DM gave a huge quest hook to one player, like apocalypse level thing, and the player went, yeah, whatever, and didn't share it with the rest of the group.
Oof.
Players are
Oof.
just involved in the storytelling as the dungeon master. I
I
think
think
we've
that's
had
a-
a player tip that was take the hooks the DM gives you. Come on.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's a very common theme we're running with today.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
players also have unspoken rules that's part of D&D.
Or
Yeah.
actually, same campaign. He once again gives the entire party a quest hook, but it's gonna. But it's like, I want to go to the city so we get some wood so we can rebuild this town. I'm like, okay, first off, we're in a forest. This city he wants to go to is 6 weeks away on foot, and this party is the sole defense of this town. Why would we leave?
That's funny.
You get the
Right.
idea.
But there's players that do stuff like that. All right, so on to why you're here. I'm a big fan of Obsidian Portal. I think this is a powerful tool for any dungeon master. Would you tell us more about it and all the little features that really make it a powerful tool?
Yeah. So Obsidian Portal, I said I used it originally as just kind of a note taker and a stat tracker before,
Right.
and then I came back and realized how powerful of a tool it is. At its easy way to look at it would be wikis, right? So Wikipedia, you dive down that rabbit hole. It's what it comes down to is you build your main information catalog. So your main page, your launch page, and then you go from there. You have options for characters, entering items, entering maps, and creating your custom maps. What Obsidian Portal does is it gives you the opportunity to build this notebook and then build off of your notebook, whether it's with links, with pictures, with image galleries. Like I said, you can upload your own map and then put your own markers in your map, which is super useful. There are a lot of map tools out there, and what I love is that you can plug in any map you want, and then you have your icons to drop on. So as I'm playing a game, and as a DM, hey, this thing happened or this town's here, I can just boop, drop a marker, and then the players all see that. I can link information to that. You drag, kind of like Google Maps, you drag your finger over it, and it pops up with the information.
Mm-hmm.
You can link right there on the map.
So when you put the link on the map, or the little tag, does that hyperlink to other pieces of information at all, or?
You could just label it, or you can create a hyperlink in that to take you somewhere.
Okay.
The big thing about Obsidian Portal is, like I said, it's wikis, so you can make it as basic or as extravagant as you want. Like I said, I learned when you become an Ascendant member, so a premium member, you can actually plug in your own code. That's why I started learning CSS, was just to customize my portals. So to be able to build your own layout, your own not just I don't know why I'm stumbling. I've spent 1,000 hours on this site. To build it literally any way you want to interact with it, but to have a specific point for character information and characters, for wikis, for adventure logs, for maps, for items. It's so easy to link between everything. That's the other thing, was you always have your options to drop this piece of information, or say you're doing an adventure log and you're talking about your character, and okay, you need to drop character, boop, you hit the button and you can type in who you're looking for, and then it pops them in. There's your hyperlink.
That was something that I noticed that was super valuable, because especially when it came to NPCs, because they're easily forgettable for players. So having when you drop in a name and being able to link to a document that you've already created that has all the information of where they met him, who he is, all that sort of stuff, became an extremely powerful tool in my mind for making easily reference points, which I guess that's the core point of it, is to connect all these things that otherwise wouldn't get used except by the dungeon master.
Right, and that's the thing, is it's, again, I know I already said as complicated or as easy as you want, but when you look at a lot of other campaign management tools and sites out there, I'm not going to bash anyone. There are a lot of good tools out there, and there are a lot of awesome people that work on a lot of these tools, but the learning curve is super steep.
Yeah.
And
Typically,
Obsidian Portal, I have found, is one of the few tools where, say say all you ever want to do is type in bullet point this happened, bullet point this happened, bullet point this happened. You could do that, and then say you come back and you're like, what happened in the last adventure? Well, there's a button for adventure log. It's right there. Or, hey, we ran into this NPC. Who was that guy? Oh, it's this guy in characters. It's about making information easy to access and easy to interface with.
Right.
Or when you start getting into, like I said, I'm very proud of what I did and winning campaign of the year, but when you get into these, that's right. When you start exploring Obsidian Portal, just go to the list of the campaign of the year or some of the more popular portals. The things that these guys are doing on Obsidian Portal, I'm pretty sure, I know I've been talking a lot about it on the Discord that'll be here. I really hope that some of these guys recognize that they should be super proud with what they're doing and just the awesome content they're making.
Right.
Awesome.
That's the other thing I noticed is this product was designed by people that wanted that product. Yep. I want something that does this, and then made it available to people. And I think that was a pretty, I think those are some of the best projects when you're developing something that there's a need for. Not only do you want it, you're making it for yourself. It just so happens I'm also going to make it for other people to use because there's in my opinion, there's a very big personal investment and a bit of pride that comes with that. So that helps ensure that you've got a really quality product for people to use.
Yeah. There's actually a YouTuber on the same wave as that, where he created this this program, this like music program where he kind of made like his own like music developing program. And the reason why he did it was because, well, I'm tired of doing all this all the time, so I can basically just like pre-record something instantly and I know exactly how it's going to sound, so when I do it live I can just do it. And he's like, yeah, it was great. And he's just like, oh yeah, I guess I could just send this out to everybody and let everyone use this. And, and everyone's like, wow, this is amazing. He's like, is it?
And I thought it was convenient.
Yeah, it's pretty much how I thought too. It was funny.
And I wanted to mention the fact that I logged into my account on the Obsidian Portal for this episode, obviously, and I saw that my account was created back in 2012.
So it's been around for a while.
Which one of my old DMs used to keep track of the campaign, and that's another topic unto itself. But yeah, that's your point I'm trying to make. It's been around the block a few times.
Yeah, been around the block.
So actually, Obsidian Portal has been around for. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna try because we kind of have to push this forward a little bit. We're trying to want to segue in. So we already talked about the ease of use. Yes. So what are some of the major benefits of using Obsidian Portal aside from its ease of use, which obviously is a huge thing. We've talked about that, but there's surely there's some other things as well.
Yeah. I know I already talked pretty at length about customization, being able to make it look however you want, being able to upload and change menus however you want to. The other big thing, and especially I'm not going to say now in these trying times, I cannot stand that anymore, but now in these times which try people, virtual interaction is really important, right? And that's not just, this whole pandemic thing. It's in general, like I said, my players have been spread across the country for a long time. I very rarely get to play in person with anyone.
Yeah.
But when I do, I'm a physicality guy. I stand up and I walk around. I do big gestures and I make things. Like I make physical props. I have, you see my minis. I have 1,000 minis. I just collect books and minis and I give things. So Obsidian Portal is a way to, even though it's not physical, make something for your players to actually interact with. I like I said, I'm very lucky that my players like to interact because I was able to create their own fonts and journal entries. So that way, when they wrote something in their character, from their character's perspective, it was in their own format. Or when I wanted to create something mysterious, I was able to make it seem more mysterious. There were extra links. There was stuff seemingly missing in the page loaded differently than the other pages because it was this mysterious object. So Obsidian Portal, aside from just customizing, the fact that it's interactive as opposed to just the the rabbit hole of a wiki article. It's a very almost tactile tool that you can play with and really invest into, not just as the DM, but as the player, to have your own journals, your own secrets, to be able to create characters and items and NPCs as a player, not just have to be a DM.
Right,
I think
right.
that's really cool too, is the player gets a lot of agency.
Now, this is something that can be written in and added by not just the DM, but the players as well, correct?
Correct, yeah. Players can create their own journal entries, adventure logs. They can create characters and items. As players and as the DM, anyone in the campaign can also create secrets and share those secrets with only certain people, which is very cool.
That is
So
cool.
if you're if you just want to tell the DM, actually, I want to steal this thing and not share it, or you want to share with another party member that whatever you're going to murder hobo, it's secret even from the GM, which otherwise, the fact that you could do it all through Obsidian Portal instead of having to use another format,
Right.
because you have in-campaign forums too that
Right.
you can make public, or you can share, you can have just between certain users in the campaign.
That is really cool. So something that I noticed that was in the when I was tinkering with it is you can become a fan of certain like campaign settings. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that's a really neat idea, and I'd like to know more.
So every campaign has the button to follow, and when you follow while you're on Obsidian Portal, you actually will see their updates. So you'll actually have your own feed in your own profile of these campaigns that you're following. So when they change or update or add, you'll get the notification, so you know what they're changing, what they're doing. If you see that they are adding a character, or if they're a new adventure log is available. Of course, they can always keep it secret. Another, like I said, big thing is you decide the visibility and interactivity with everything.
Right.
But the fact that you can follow these campaigns, so instead of like, oh, I was reading this one 6 months ago, I gotta go find it. That's the most obnoxious thing. When, I mean, as any D&D players, I read an article once 12 years ago, and it was like the book was green. Now I gotta find it. To be able to just follow it and be able to go right to it is super nice, and it gives those players and that DM that satisfaction of hey, people are paying attention, and maybe this is something that people can enjoy.
Absolutely.
Huh.
So obviously we talked a lot about Obsidian Portal. It can obviously do a whole lot. As a dungeon master, we always have to ask this, because if there's one thing I've learned, there is a near infinite number of resources that we can use. So can you tell us about what your favorite resource to use when building worlds or running games that's beyond Obsidian Portal?
So I consistently reference older editions of D&D. So I run 5e currently, but I have just a backlog, and I know, hot take, 4e may not have been the most popular, but arguably it has some of the best. It has some of the best splat content of any system.
Yes, I agree.
I have more 4th edition than I do 3.5, even 5th edition, because there's just so much content and so much to build on. So when I do world building, I'm not gonna lie, I still rely pretty heavily on 4e, because there's just so much depth there.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I recommend to anyone. I mean, I saw they're now coming out finally with a pseudo Dragonomicon for 5th edition in October, I think. But 4e had
so good.
Had 2 dragon books, and Dragon Magazine had the Cataclysm dragons. There was so much content in 4e that just hasn't translated. It's great that we're getting new settings. I don't want settings, I want worlds. I don't want I like subclasses, but I want items. I don't want it's great that Magic the Gathering is coming over, or D&D is going to Magic the Gathering, but I want stuff for my people to do, not just a new campaign, because I'm not running a new campaign every week. I'm running the same campaign. Give me stuff to put in my campaign, not
Absolutely.
a campaign to be in, if that makes sense.
That does.
I
very
mean,
much.
some of the
Makes a lot of
content
sense.
in past editions that is currently not available in 5th, just
yeah.
the imagery that pops in your head just when you hear the names. Like, when my GM, when we were playing 4th Ed, one time said Earthquake Dragon, I'm like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Jesus.
Very cool.
That's awesome. See, I'm a little bit out of the loop in terms of this stuff because everyone here, except for me, has played previous editions, and I actually only started kind of when 5th edition was really starting to begin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I started looking into it when 3.5 was ending, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there right when 4th started, and that definitely had a rocky start to it. But I'm glad I found a few
And
dedicated
life
groups.
and ending, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I did find a few dedicated groups though, and enjoyed it. And there was some Pathfinder tossed in there occasionally too, 1st edition. But hey,
But basically the point I was trying to get at was that from me being the guy who started in 5th edition, and kind of seeing like what some of the previous content the older editions had, and like what kind of lore they've really like I guess had inside the previous books. Essentially, it's just there's so much more to D&D than what 5th edition has written right now. Like,
yeah,
it's actually insane how
Yeah.
even in just the 4th edition books that I'm still currently knowing about, as he keeps bringing more stuff up about it, and I'm like, man, I wish we
got a
had this
bunch
stuff
of-
in 5e because like I
Shoot.
would love to play some of this stuff.
just the other day I told Justin about the Tome of Battle and the content that was in it, and he was like, "What?
I
Why do I?"
nearly-
So he's like, "Why did I not know about this?"
Yes. So I'm excited for that.
See,
So,
I don't know about this.
Yeah. Right.
The
so-
Warblade is what people wish the fighter was. I'm just gonna say that bluntly.
All right, so as we wrap up our main topic today, we're kind of running on time.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Is there any other? I noticed you run your own. You have YouTube streams that you do.
Yeah.
Before we move on, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I actually kind of enjoyed what I watched.
I appreciate that. So actually, not to be that guy, slight correction. I actually am not a staff member of Obsidian Portal. I'm just a user who loves the content itself. I was very fortunate enough to, after a couple years of really bothering the hell out of some really great people like Alex or Thien or Jinx, some of the guys that actually run Obsidian Portal, into like, hey, what about this thing? What about that thing? And being asked to be part of the inner council, which is some users that have been around for a while and do a lot on the site and really interact with the community. I had some ideas of, hey, let's do some game reviews. So I did a couple Kickstarter reviews, and then we were talking about something just to try something different. And I had this idea for these card breakings, these pack breakings. So what I've been doing, I appreciate you bringing it up. I've been having a lot of fun. I have a couple in the bank, and I actually have one I'm going to be posting soon. But what I've been doing is taking random packs of just non-sports trading cards,
Mm-hmm.
open a pack, and then creating a story based on the cards and the packs themselves.
Yeah.
And I got into that because it was something different. It was something to challenge myself as a DM, because it's we all go back to the same things. I know I said I go back to 4th edition a lot for world stuff, but as far as moving a story, going somewhere, doing something new with it would be, being able to break a pack of cards and like, I need a character. Here's this old guy. All right, so G. Willikers comes up to you, big bushy white beard, and he tells you that he needs to find his granddaughter. She's lost in the woods, like super lost. It's going really bad. So you and your buddy, all Lone Ranger style, cowboy up. You're gonna go get her, but it doesn't go well. One of you, in fact, doesn't make it. Here's the other guy looking off into the distance, real sad because you're toast. It was a bummer. But at the end of the day, look, She makes it back. There's the blonde granddaughter. Makes
Yeah,
it
there we
back
go.
with fish, bottles, something. But she makes it back to scrubby, but ultimately romantic guy.
That's funny.
So yeah,
That's good.
You're
I
like
actually
that.
the second person that we've had on that's done something like that.
Yeah.
The last person we had strictly seemed to use Magic the Gathering. The fact that you just made a story out of Walking Dead cards is like plus
Oh, dude,
10
it's
gold
great.
points,
Yeah.
man. I love that.
Especially like on
So-
the spot improv, you couldn't have. I mean, those packs were sealed. It's like that's pretty good stuff,
Let's
man.
do it.
I like it.
It's great.
I have a whole desk of just Lion King, Free Willy, and random crap.
I didn't even know they make cards for Free Willy. What the hell?
I
Yeah,
have
the
not
more
thought
you know.
about those
Those ones-
movies in years.
All right, where can they
I'm
where can they
excited.
find these videos?
Sorry. So the videos are on Obsidian Portal's YouTube channel.
Oh, wow.
Obsidian
Nice.
Portal. And there are some older tutorial videos too about being able to set up your own campaign. Jinx did some cool campaign building stuff too on how to just build something. So yeah, they let me do my nerd thing and have a lot of fun. It's been something I'm very lucky that they have can stand me and my brand of nerd.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that'll do it for our main topic today.
Cool.
Great.
I will go ahead and let's change it up and move on to our Unearthed tips and tricks.
Awesome.
And now, what you've all been waiting for. Our Unearthed Tips and Tricks segment, where we bring you new and reusable material for both players and DMs.
Lettering comes from a long line of them, and he takes great care to keep up his appearance to help project his professional demeanor to gain and keep his client base. Hubert is a consummate professional, and one of his flaws is that he tends to hold others to the same standard when they practice their own trade. And while his demeanor is, aside from sometimes being brisk when he's being professional, is friendly and inviting. He loves his friends, he loves his family, but he is a fierce combatant, and when in the heat of the battle, he will draw on his heritage, practicing the more visceral side of bloodletting that his ancestors, practiced. So even though the Barbasols and their line have moved on from the more savage lifestyle of the ancestors, they still always honor their roots. By doing so, he carries his family blade, an almost 5-foot-long straight razor named Cutthroat that he has used to shave, scalp, trim, and bleed anything from a field mouse to a storm giant. Hubert lives by the Barbasol Barber's Code of Conduct, and there's a bit of a list for that, but ultimately, if he is not a professional and does not honor the code that his family and other professional barbers follow, he suffers barber's bane, cannot use his weapons properly, cannot practice his profession until he is able to service a customer properly and really repay his ancestors for the fallacy of not properly upholding the profession.
I love it. That is so cool.
I really like that.
This made me think of one character I ran briefly for one shot, Sir Reginald Pemberton. Basically, like, I passed him off as a Victorian era gentleman, if you will, but took the class barbarian.
Excuse me, sir. We have words to speak. Will you step outside with me, please?
Prepare, sir, for a thrashing that I'm about to give you. And actually, like, with a noble background, I took the knight background, so I had, like, attendants, if you will.
Yep.
Like his butlers.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Excuse me, Philip. Would you hold this while I thrash this? I can't think of a good word.
I do not wish to tear my
Vagabond.
jacket again.
Or like one time I flavored as a joke when we're up against demons, like a butler walked up with like a golf bag. May I recommend the cold iron, sir, for the demon?
That's fantastic. I need that. I want that. I'm writing it down.
That was awesome.
I need a weapon caddy.
That's really good.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Both of these are really good. I like
love
the
it.
idea of
Where
just
the hell was this
a
one? I'm always
very-
asking for character
I
concepts.
gave you this a while ago.
Yeah, well, that's
I
on
think I
you.
lost him. Maybe if I had my own little weapon caddy.
Yeah, I do have a weapon caddy. That's really good. I like that idea. I like both of these ideas. These are both great.
Thank you so much for
You actually
sharing that with us. I absolutely love that.
You guys got a 2
Yeah,
for
I
1
can-
today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will send you the barber's code of conduct as well,
Yes,
too. if you
please
want to have
do.
that.
Yeah,
That's
that would-
awesome. Barber's code of conduct. Please tell me
Absolutely.
his like armor color suit is like red and white stripes, right?
So it depends on, if he's at a
said darker
salon or
clothes.
where he's set up. He does have some very showy, like the striped white and red sleeves.
That's funny.
But otherwise, it's wherever he is, as long as he's approached properly and they can make the correct trade and honor. Yeah, he'll do it anywhere, anytime, which sounds weirder when I say it out loud, but I mean barbering.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, get down for battle is what I mean. Otherwise,
That'll do it for our character concept. Moving on to our monster variant.
All the shaving puns you can go with.
Right.
Yeah.
Today's monster variant is the Seraph's Fade. In order to build this, you're going to start with the Ghost stat block, but you're going to lose a few features. You're going to lose Horrifying Visage, Withering Touch, and Resistance to Necrotic will be changed to Resistance to Radiant. Let's give her some new features. Proficiency in Performance and Persuasion at a +6. That's awesome. So instead of the Horrifying Visage, now we have the Blinding Visage, because she's a seraph, like a fallen, like an angel, it's like a shade of an angel. So each non-lawful good creature within 60 feet of the seraph that can see it must succeed on a DC 13 Wisdom saving throw or be blinded for 1 minute. If the save fails by 5 or more, the target is also revitalized with youth, having its age reduced by 1d4 times 10 years. That could be a problem for
Whoa.
some, especially
Or a
humans.
bonus.
Or right. This effect cannot reduce the target's age to less than 1 year old. A blinded target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the condition on itself on a success. If the target's saving throw is successful, or the effect ends for it, the target is immune to this effect for the next 24 hours. The aging effect can be reversed with the Greater Restoration spell, but only within 24 hours of occurring.
Now I'm 16 again. Leave me alone.
But wait, there's more, because, that's how I go when I design my monsters. We're also going to give her the Luring Song. The Seraph sings a magical melody. Every humanoid within 300 feet of it that can hear it must succeed a wisdom saving throw of 13, or basically just dash, using all of its actions and turns to rush towards this Seraph's Fade. And while charmed by the Seraph, a target is incapacitated and ignores the songs of other Seraphs. If the target charmed is more than 5 feet from the Seraph, the target must move on its turn towards the Seraph. So this is the Harpy power if you're not familiar. This was something I really thought was a lot of fun to make. It's worth noting if you do succeed the save on the Luring Song, you do become immune to it for 24 hours. So they can't just be perpetually screwed. But I wanted to take the ghost and take it from this malevolent thing to something that doesn't necessarily have malevolence tied to it, but still its power radiates and affects things around it. I would love to hear what Zach has to say.
So I think that throwing something like this at any group, it would throw them off. I mean, this is not the type of creature, whether hearing the song or seeing this visage, the way you would approach it would be completely different than how you actually need to approach it.
Right.
As far as just the charming itself, I mean, I'm a big fan of charming. I'm a big fan of throwing a player off, especially when only one or two players pass and the others fail.
Yep.
And it's this kind of mad, oh no, you gotta stop, and just like the Pepe Le Pew like floating on the descent.
That's a good one. I like that.
And then just the idea of being blind, of being lured, I really enjoy, because every monster hits hard. Well, maybe not every, but monsters hit hard. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have to deal with a monster that isn't just status effects, but affects the way your character interacts with the world, so blinding or being charmed like that, it makes combat and it makes an encounter very different than the standard grind. And everyone loves a grind, but, well, some people, a lot of people, I like a good grind sometimes,
Right.
but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the best way to really, I think, mix up an interaction or mix up a fight is, whether it's blinded or charmed, you can't swing an axe at being blinded. You
Right.
can't, cast fireball at being charmed. How do you get out of that?
Although a Divine Barbarian would say challenge accepted.
Right.
Yes.
The thing that I really loved about this when I was designing it was the fact that the luring song doesn't require you to see. So if you can't see
Right.
and you have to run towards this thing, it says they don't walk into danger on their own, but if they can't see, I would almost say that they wouldn't be able to tell if they were walking into danger. So I feel like there's
Right,
a little
yeah.
bit of fun to be had there, because I'm a douche like that.
A little bit of rule bending, if you will.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really interesting is the ghost aged people. So I was like, well, what would a heavenly creature do?
Oh my
It
god.
it would unage them, right? Like, so I
Well,
just took the reverse of that.
The problem is your average D&D character age is like
Yes.
20 something.
Yeah.
If you
Yes.
spend 2 rounds blind and listening to music, and you come out like middle school and like, that chick was amazing. Like,
So
it just eats a character, man.
So the thing that I find most interesting is the reducing of life or the aging effect, because it's based off the horrifying visage, right?
Right.
It doesn't say anything about altering stats. So you might become a young child, but you still should
Ooh.
have all your mental stats in
yeah,
hand.
you should have.
I feel like the
everything
only
still.
thing that would change would be your physical stats. Now it doesn't say anything about that, so I think that DM fiat's going to come into that.
Well, not in this edition anyway.
Right. So, for me, that
That would
says
be hard mode, man.
what is that? What is that movie, Baby Boss? Right, where it's basically a toddler running around with that's actually a genius or an adult or something like that.
Alex Baldwin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boss
That's
baby.
definitely
And it's not just that.
Boss Baby.
In
Boss
Hitman
Baby, yep.
Reborn, the anime, it's the same way. All these super-powered
okay.
assassins got shrunk into babies, so they're running around with pacifiers in their mouth, assassinating people.
And then there's Karama.
Yes, Karama goes ages differently too. But anyways, the point is I thought that was an interesting thing to kind of play with, because it's not the typical thing you run into with a bad guy. So,
No.
and it
Yeah.
often says it has to be a bad guy either. This could be just something
Yeah.
they stumble across, and because these effects automatically happen, there could be some misunderstanding.
Mhm.
That leads to a battle, especially with murder hobos, right? Oh, I'm blinded.
Yeah.
Must be a bad guy. Let's go kill it. It might just be some, Fade Seraph just playing their harp or whatever, So,
Yeah.
all right, that'll do it for our monster variant.
And now to the encounter of the podcast, the Wizard Out of Time. While the characters are delving deep into a lost dungeon or a ruined wizard's tower, they stumble across a sarcophagus etched with arcane runes and glyphs. Usually that's bad.
Yeah.
A character who succeeds on a DC 19 Arcana check is able to identify some of the runes as a mixture of plane-shifting runes combined with Dispel Enchantment and Time Manipulation, and is sealed with the Arcane Lock spell. It's a lot that's going on in there. Sounds like a ticking time bomb, more honestly. Beyond the jumbled runes are used in a way that doesn't make sense to them. A character with a sage background knows of a scriptorium in a major city where they can seek additional knowledge on complex pictographs. If the characters attempt to open the sarcophagus, provided they can dispel or overcome the arcane lock, a rush of wind and a strange smell of pine and oil rushes from the sarcophagus. A short halfling with a massive white beard down to his feet stands unsteadily. "Wow, that was quite a trip," he says. "So good you come to my aid. Now, where, and more importantly, when am I?" And this man is Nelkin Longbeard, a halfling archmage. Nelkin is from a different time. He is affected by a disease called the Spell Plague. And it has...
We were just talking about 4th edition.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It has broken his connection to the weave so that his magic is unpredictable. Anytime Nelkin casts a spell at first level or higher, he must roll a d20. On 10 or lower, he must roll on the Sorcerer's Wild Magic table. I like how it's a 50-50 chance instead of a 5% chance. Nelkin can also share the following information with the characters. He suffers from an illness known as the Spell Plague. His magic is unpredictable, and because of it, he is seeking a cure. Nelkin wasn't able to find such a thing in his time, so he cobbled together a very complex ritual of spells to the best of his ability to search the timeline for a cure. Unfortunately, he is unable to completely control where or when he goes because of the Spell Plague. Something seriously went wrong in the last transportation and left him unconscious and sealed within his device. He seeks the aid from the characters in locating something that may help. A character that succeeds on a DC 19 Arcana check, a second one, can confirm the existence of magic that can make any wish come true. You know there is little the powerful wish spell can't do. As a game master, you can choose when and where Nelkin comes from, either the same world from the past or future, or a different plane of existence entirely. And I think that's where a lot of the encounter is going to be having fun, because you could say he came from a neo-futuristic society where magic barely exists, and maybe that's why he has attained the Spell Plague.
Yeah. What do you think, Zach?
Well, first off, Spell Plague is my favorite thing from any edition ever.
Yes. It's good stuff.
But the whole traveler out of time and place is such a good hook. Like,
Oh yeah.
you know, like you said, you can make him from wherever, whenever, and that's why this is really good for plug and play, drop into any campaign. Is well, he's from, whether he came from Eberron or he came from the world we call 4th Planet Edition, whatever place he's from.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow.
Right. The Epcot sphere it makes it very easy to put this in, and the whole idea of this super unreliable caster, for me as a DM, not only would I say, well, I need your help, and I'll come with you, blasting off crap-ass spells like Yosemite Sam with a 50% failure rate. Just like, I could be useful, and just blowing himself up the whole time.
Yeah.
Like,
As the player character's like, oh my god, we have to keep him alive, because one, he's entertaining, but two, oh my goodness, he's gonna kill
Right.
us
He's gonna
all.
kill us all.
Yeah.
But I think I can teleport us across that gorge. No, we're okay. We'll walk.
Yeah. Last time you tried to teleport somewhere, you went somewhen. We don't want this.
And even just getting a wish spell, I mean, a wish spell is such a heavy, like, end point for whether it's a one-shot or a campaign.
Yeah, it's
Like,
huge.
I mean, for me, even with that, is they get to the end, they get a wish spell, like, it depends on what party I'm running. I've had parties like, all right, well, I wished, and then shove him off a cliff, now I've got my wish.
Right,
Like,
and
there's a lot.
That's the risk there, right? Because especially if you
Yeah.
offer to this at a level where they can't do it and they have to get help, and you can only get one, and it's to help this
Yeah.
strange guy who in the end is going to be like, you know how much work we just had to go through to get this?
Right.
How
I'd
about
put
we
him
just
back
do
in
something
his-
else?
Yeah, I'd put him back in his
thing.
coffin so he
Yeah.
quits blasting me in the middle of the night, and then I have a wish spell.
Yeah, so that's definitely something I was considering when I wrote it. So
This actually reminds me of a YouTuber named Blaine Simple. I guess I'll give a quick shout out
I've
to
seen
that.
yeah.
Is he actually gave all of his players a wish spell because they were running the Descent into Avernus campaign, but with a massive twist where instead of them gaining the Sword of Zariel essentially, and having their characters kind of get wiped essentially, instead they all became angels, but they kept their characters.
That's
So
cool
it
as
was a
hell.
very, very high-powered campaign all of a sudden, and in order to kind of circumvent that, they had to make basically a deal with the devil himself and be like, all right, well,
Asmodeus or Zariel?
just like some other not
okay.
like high-ranking
Some other high
devil lord,
Okay.
and he was
That's-
just like, he can give you the
awesome.
wish spell, and here's the problem. Well, it's a high-ranking devil, and that can obviously cause some very huge issues, because that was like the cost of like everything. It's just like, well, you have all of this, That's great because you basically just stopped like the entire universes of all things been crumbling together and all this apocalyptic stuff. Here's your reward. However, it's a reward from a devil, so be aware. So it was an interesting take. Yeah, Wish is point being, Wish is a very depending on who's giving it to you or when you're given it is a very heavy thing.
Right.
I still have had the fact that when
many things.
Yeah. I still have the fact that in the one campaign we played in, we were given a genie's lamp, and my character pushed hardcore for trading that sucker away for something else as soon as we could. It's like, I am not dealing with this.
Get it out of here. All right, I think that'll do it for our encounter of the podcast.
Yes.
Yep.
Ian, would you like to tell us about our magic item of the podcast?
Our magic item of the podcast is the Sand Fury Bow Staff. It's a rare staff that is requires attunement by a monk or a fighter. Constantly warm to the touch, the staff is made from a monstrous bulette. It has been imbued with the burrowing creature's essence and enchanted to blind foes. This staff can be wielded as a magic quarterstaff that can grant a +1 to attack and damage. The staff has 3 charges, which regains 1d4 daily at dawn. When you hit a creature with this weapon, you can use a bonus action to speak the staff's command word. The target is caught in a swirling twister of dust and sand, and they must succeed on a DC 13 con saving throw or be blinded for 1 minute. At the end of each of its turns, it may make another con saving throw. On success, the effect ends.
Okay.
That's fun.
What do you think there, Zach?
Well, I like the idea of this being a surprise. I think I would throw it at the party first as someone they're facing has this thing.
Yes.
And I don't think I'd let them figure out what it is till they play with it more, if that makes sense.
like
So
that.
this guy did this thing. How do I do that? And then
Right.
just kind of, play with it themselves, because this has, this has some good, I think, to me, definitely is very useful in a utilitarian way.
Right.
But as just a way to kind of give the player something to do and screw around with, something I like to do as a player, or rather as a DM, is to give, like I've said, I give stuff. And the less they know about something, I'm not going to give them something that kills them. I think that's a kind of a dick move, unless you say, this will kill you. But give them something.
Yeah.
That kind of like the end of a shotgun barrel, like old Looney Tunes. Like, it's not going to hurt them, but it may end up, now we're in a sand twister. Like, what the crap am I doing?
Yeah.
Right. What do you guys think?
I like how when you run out of charges, it doesn't like have a chance to break or something like that, because I know a lot of like the
Staffs do that.
a lot of like any weapon really with charges tends to do that. But I think because of the fact that it's just a staff, like it's like, come on, you're already like sacrificing this amount of damage for whatever short sword, long sword, or whatever they're usually using anyway, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that was kind of the idea behind it. Is there's not a lot of staff magic items that aren't designed specifically for spellcasters.
So I really like that.
So
a lot.
I wanted to create something that was designed for somebody that would fight and hit with the staff, but wouldn't be obviously magical, right?
Right.
So obviously, the staff of fire is obviously a very obviously magic item, but this one, it's because of what it's made out of, it can do this kind of thing, and it's I don't know, it's an indirect magic item, I guess, and it doesn't just blow things up, which I'm a fan of items that create effects on the enemy as opposed to kaboom.
Yeah. This will just cause them to die instantly. Looking at you, the Vorpal Sword.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I think that'll do it for our magic item.
Magic.
Our Dungeon Master tip of the day is running adventures in the Shadowfell. Oh my gosh, yes. Why haven't you done this yet, people? The Shadowfell is a bleak realm that houses both the dead and those among the living who are embraced a dismal existence there. Represented as a shadowy reflection of the world, it can manifest slightly different ways to its visitors, which I think is awesome. Can you imagine going into the same location and not being the same as the last time you were there?
Yeah, well,
When running a game that is set in the Shadowfell, it's important to convey an atmosphere of terror, isolation, and dread. the DMG does give us a cool mechanic called the Shadowfell Despair that really helps us along by forcing the character to make saves against the effect of despair the character experiences. What's really cool about this is it replaces flaws on the, or adds flaws to the character sheet, such as I can't tell what's real anymore. So if you want to set the mood for the players, there's a number of different things that you can do to the table, at the table, to help the setting, help this setting. Changing the location where you play is a great start. If possible, consider playing during nightfall by candlelight or torchlight. And if you can't, dim lights in a room can play some brooding or unsettling music in the background. Halloween soundtracks are great for this. The Shadowfell is definitely something that's supposed to be terrifying and be gloomy. So during the game, batter your players' nerves with ambushes, surprises, and sudden twists. Now, keep in mind these ambushes don't necessarily have to be monsters, but they could be fantastic terrain, huh? This will keep them off balance, and to top it off, adding illusions, traps, or other hazards that just suddenly appear after the character has already passed through an area that contained it, instead catching the character at the back of the line in marching order by surprise. The last detail that can truly change the experience in the passage is the passage of time. In the Shadowfell, creatures generally perceive time differently from their home plane. They don't use the rising and setting of the sun, but instead the gloom that fills a creature's mind. This becomes worse as they delve deeper into depression. What may seem like years may only be a few minutes, or a few days, maybe a few years on their plane. Yeah. What do you guys think about this horrifying experience?
I think I'm going to start by immediately saying music can absolutely help your table at any given moment, depending on what you choose. Yes. Like, and I can think of a plethora of songs where, maybe because I have like a weird music theory background, I guess, but there's definitely like a couple, even like video game soundtracks that I can immediately think of where like, if you really want to just set the tone that this place is unsettling
Dark
and
Souls.
it's... see, the problem with Dark Souls is it's too epic sounding. You can't use that. You're giving your players too much faith in the fact that they're going to survive. There's actual soundtracks where there is like actual like it's just two notes, half steps apart, and a heartbeat, and that's all you're hearing, and that is extremely unsettling. You will sound, it's basically the sound of stress, and like that is literally what that would be. And like you're
stressing me out just talking about it, man.
Yeah, and that's the point. That is it. Like it's meant to be like unsettling. You're not supposed to feel safe. If everything else could be totally fine. I could be sitting here having this conversation, but if I'm hearing that, I'm gonna feel like something is either like looking at me or like all that kind of thing. So I highly implore that music does go well with the Shadowfell idea.
Zach, what do you think?
Yeah.
I personally love the Shadowfell. I've run multiple campaigns in it, through it. I love the gloom of it. I think the Shadowfell affords a DM an opportunity that a lot of other places and settings don't, because you can always throw a scary monster, Resident Evil style, just burst through a wall, but to put which I think is a good soundtrack, but I'm scared of getting shot down. Resident Evil, I would say, is good.
Ooh.
That's fair.
Ooh. For me, when I run anything in the Shadowfell, it's not just scary, it's not just it's not just a lot of twists and turns. It's depressing. The way that people survive there is either they do something really extreme to stay alive. It's why the Shadarkai pierce and tattoo themselves and are so extreme, is to feel something.
Right.
So in the Shadowfell, as I run my players through it, there are all these villages that, they're making it, but no one is happy. The actual happiness is rare to come by. So when they're interacting with other people or other creatures, it's not just about, oh, this is scary, but like, what's the point of continuing to live? That's the main reason people and things die in the Shadowfell. So it's, I've run them into themselves in the Shadowfell old or haggard or having already lost other members of their own party or having gone insane already. Like,
You know, I
the
never thought about
Shadowfell is
that.
there to break you down and kill you with depression.
Right.
So I think that Shadowfell is a good way to really put gloom into a character, into a player rather, that is a new emotion compared to a lot of other encounters. Gloom
Right.
is, I think, underrated as a way to affect players.
Absolutely. Let's take the Ranger Gloomstalker there and see how really gloomy he really is.
Yeah.
So, do you got
Also,
anything, Ian?
I want to make a quick note. I'm not saying that the Dark Souls soundtrack is bad. I'm just saying it.
Does not invoke horror.
I just
Yes.
assumed Zach saw the tear in my eye as I died a little inside, and you're like, no!
No.
There's a game reference there, and we will find it together.
All right, that'll do it for our Dungeon Master tip, running adventures in the Shadowfell. Our player tip of the podcast is, don't be a
Don't
dick.
be a dick.
Hey, we appreciate it.
Good
Zach,
effort.
plus 20 cool points to you. And you can avoid dickitude by turning your ally into an arrow.
Slight Avengers influence, I'm guessing, from the
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I just posted this. This will drop tomorrow on our social media post, and I used that image with Hawkeye and Ant-Man. So, the Polymorph Spell is one of the most iconic spells in D&D. Being able to transform an ally into a raging monstrous beast, such as a dinosaur, is pretty commonplace. But, did you know you could use Polymorph to easily get an ally behind enemy lines or help them close the gap between them and an enemy within seconds? Well, you're in luck, because you can. Using the Polymorph spell to turn an ally, such as a barbarian or fighter, into a spider, for instance. Once in this form, the polymorphed party member, who is now a spider, climbs onto the party member's arrow. The party member can then launch the polymorphed spider member a great distance or directly at an enemy. Once they land, they will change back into their normal form, because an impact at that level is likely going to do more than 1 point of damage, right? And either and yeah, so once they land, they change right back, and they are either behind enemy lines, sneaking up behind them, right alongside an enemy who thought they were at a safe distance away. Surprise, you're not. If you really want to take it up a notch, you can also transform with anything you're holding, so let the barbarian get a nice big grip on a giant boulder. Then listen to the sound of crunching bones under your barbarian's stone. What do you guys think, Zach?
I think this is brilliant. So this is like all the other tips I have listened to on your show. As a DM, if my players did this, my first reaction is, "You son of a bitch," and my second reaction is, "Yeah, you go. All right,
Yeah, he's...
okay,
Yep.
do it. Let's go." And then I'm excited. Like, the idea
Yeah.
of my players doing this is fantastic, and I mean, mechanically, it's solid. You'd have to find a way to be really picky, because I'm that guy. You'd have to find a way to secure a spider to an arrow,
Yeah.
but
Oh, they have
Well,
spider climb. That's why I chose that.
And spider webs.
And
Oh,
spider webs.
spider web, yeah.
That's why I
Or
picked the
don't-
spider.
a piece of arcane bubble gum, and you stick them on there and fire
Yeah,
them off. But
At
like,
least that was
this
the
is
reason behind that.
a brilliant tactic. Or even if you're just trying to use this to clear an obstacle, even if you're not trying to surprise an enemy, but
Oh,
get
yeah.
to the other side of this pit, like, yeah, the practicality of this, or hiding one of your party members, or hiding, an ally, that would... I ran a game, and one of my players was a pixie barbarian, and the rogue would hide the pixie barbarian in his pocket, and then, like, you'd think he's pulling a weapon, but he's pulling out this angry pixie barbarian. Like, it's the same factor of, like, where did this guy come from?
I just flashback to 4th edition. Pixie barbarians were no joke.
So this gets
Angry.
this gets really cool too, because let's say you combine it with somebody that's got the sharpshooter feat that says they ignore cover, and somebody's
Yeah.
shooting at them through like slits or something up in the top of the castle walls, and they take aim and then they hit. The barbarian just went from being on the low end of the battlefield to being up in the area where the lever is to open the gates and to stop people from firing down on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could just take them literally and just throw them off the edge.
And then of course I don't know how well the gripping the boulder feature works, but it says anything they're holding melds with their form. So that's a whole nother thing of taking out entire like carts and horses and stuff from a distance.
Or even just like kamikaze alchemist fire. Like if you just appear and drop a sack full of alchemist fire in there.
Nice. Watch it burn.
I saw a monk do that with a backpack full of multiple necklace of fireballs.
Yes.
And they succeeded on their reflex save and took no damage. When they threw it straight down on the ground.
That's hilarious. All right. This was a very fun one, so hopefully you guys liked it. That'll do it for our player tip of the podcast.
Don't be a dick.
Be a dick.
And you can avoid dickitude by turning your ally into an arrow.
Sometimes it just works.
Yeah.
Before we close out today, we have another gift to give away, compliments of our generous sponsors.
I believe that's Ian.
I don't know, somebody made it purple.
Yeah.
You made it purple.
Oh, that was me then. My bad.
Our Fat Luke giveaway is The Incredible World of Doors and Locks by Martin Devico.
Your camera's still frozen, I don't know why.
I don't know why either.
I've seen. Who cares?
It's a humor-driven DM advice type of document about entrances and how to use structural elements to better present narrative characteristics about their context. It's short, fun, and insightful.
I actually really liked reading this. I immediately had to do a TikTok video about it because it was so incredible.
Yeah. Our winner today is Adam Cornett. Didn't win? No problem. Head over to crackhammy.com and subscribe for your chance to win.
Yes.
Actually, yeah.
Do it now.
Actually, reading about that product made me think of Order of the Stick, where the fighter was fighting a half-orc barbarian, which was a common enemy, and he ends by basically chucking them into some pillars, which then crumbled down on him, and the fighter yelled, "Yeah, that's how you use 13 ranks of architecture in combat."
All right, before we close out here, Zach, would you like to give another plug for Obsidian Portal, where they can find you guys, where can they follow, all that jazz?
Yeah, so obsidianportal.com for all your campaign management needs. Why your party doesn't stay at the tavern, why does your game just stay at the table? Make sure to check out the YouTube channel for not just my own fantastic, handsome, hilarious content, but all the other great
handsome
content and folks on there. And it took a long time. It's a fake beard as well. It's a toupee too, but the content is real.
Okay.
Yeah, check it out. Biggest thing I can always say, and I will always say about Obsidian Portal is, it's fun, and it's just one more tool that's easy to use, and I'm always looking for something easy, and I think everyone else is.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Definitely check it out.
100% agree.
So I would like to take a moment to let everyone know that we are starting a new campaign. Anybody that knows that we've just a couple months ago we finished Descent into Avernus, and our heroes decided that they were going to plane shift themselves and Elturel back to the material world.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't remember if they didn't succeed on a couple checks.
I don't know. We
And
just fucked up. That's all I
had some poor material components, so they were able to return to the material realm. Just not Forgotten Realms. So please come and join us on this amazing plane hopping adventure that starts in Ravnica. We will be streaming on August 6th. We do at 7 p.m.
Yep.
At 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll get some more stuff. That'll be the few days after this audio podcast episode comes out. So please come by YouTube at youtube.com/c/critacademy. Come support us if you want to start from the beginning and journey. It is worth noting this will be a high-level campaign because they are their characters that they took from Descent into Avernus. So please come and join us. I'm super excited. I have written some awesome stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, I took a lot of inspiration from Sliders. So this is gonna be fun.
Well, Merle will get that mech suit he always dreamed of.
the world may never know.
I don't know,
Like
but
the son of
Zorax
a-
has to go fight a god real quick, so he's going to be busy.
All right, so with that, please join us on our next episode. We'll be discussing the top 5 questions. That's 10. Top 5 questions to ask to make sure your D&D rulings are good and not trash. Because we don't like trash DMs, do we, around here, guys?
No. And we played with some.
Yes.
Sorry. Just
For those that can't
that's
see,
10.
I said 5, but I put both my hands out, so that's certainly not 5.
I don't know why that was so funny to
Well,
me.
5 any chance, so yeah.
All right, so
But if you enjoy the show and you want to support us, please do. We need help. Visit us at CryticAcademy.com. Follow us on all of our social media. We're on, especially like TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. We're mostly active on those. And feel free to leave us a review on iTunes or anywhere that you go for your podcast stuff.
podcatcher stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so
We just passed 10,000 or 11,000 subscribers on TikTok. Follow us
That's
on TikTok.
fantastic.
And I think
Yeah.
we're closing in on 10,000 on Facebook. So now we just gotta get our YouTube there. Like,
yeah, I don't know, like
Yeah.
what's
if you
the
follow us on
segue's missing.
TikTok, if you follow us on TikTok or Facebook, go follow us on YouTube.
Yeah,
They actually
we're-
pay. So, like,
it helps us out a lot more than you might think. I don't know if anyone realizes.
all
that.
right. With that, I am your host, Justin.
I am your guest, Zach, or AKA Conan Librarian.
Yes, check them
And
out.
then I am your co-host Austin.
And I'm your other co-host, Ian. Thanks for listening.
Keep your blades sharp and spells prepared, heroes.
Woo!